Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the SG3 show tonight on YouTube and wherever you get your social media platforms. I'm Shravan Ganavarpu. Thank you for joining me. As always, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. As always, follow me on social media on Instagram. Pardon me. A little bit of an alarm because it is breaking news coming up here. We'll get to that in just a moment, but I want to thank all my subscribers, all those who do follow me on all my social media platforms. Thank you so much. I just got to check the news here and make sure we're all good to go. And it looks like we're all in good shape here. Thanks to these alarm clocks for setting it up. And I was trying to get you guys in on a late night show, but hey, it is what it is. Some of y'all are just probably getting ready for bed. So, a little recap of what's been going on across the NFL today. And as you guys know, there's been some breaking news all across the NFL. So, let's, as always, let's kick it off with the breaking news. That's right. Free agency is running wild. One of the big deals that happened earlier today was the Panthers initially thinking they were going to get defensive tackle Milton Williams of the Philadelphia Eagles. Most will recall Milton Williams having the big play at the end of Super Bowl 59, smacking Patrick Mahomes to the ground. Ultimately, the ball was recovered by Philadelphia in their 40-22 victory. Williams was supposed to head to the Carolina Panthers, but somehow backed out of that deal and is going to the New England Patriots for more money. But that wasn't the only person that was heading to the Patriots. Linebacker Robert Spillane and defensive back Carlton Davis, also like Milton Williams, a Super Bowl champion, is heading to New England. The Patriots are far removed from the Tom Brady days that most people despised, but the folks in Foxborough were very, very happy to see. Right now, there's not much of an offensive arsenal being brought into New England. It's been mostly the defensive guys, as Mike Vrabel is a former Patriot linebacker. Let's see what happens with that. But the Patriots are certainly not adverse to paying money. They're making moves, and they deserve some credit for it. But the question is, what are they going to do for Drake May? Because right now we haven't seen much from the offense, and frankly, for their sake, they might want to get some guys. Possibly they could go with one with the 4th overall pick in this year's draft. They could have had the number 1 pick, but they won their last game against Buffalo to lose that. Speaking of the Eagles, defensive end Josh Sweat, Oscar Smith's finest, former Florida State superstar, drafted by the Eagles, had a big Super Bowl game himself. $76 million deal with former Eagles coach, defensive coordinator, now turned Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon. Josh Sweat is headed to the desert on a massive contract. Many believe Sweat should have won Super Bowl MVP with his performance, and he looked like the guy that at one point in time was the number 1 player in the nation coming out of, as I said before, Oscar Smith High School in Chesapeake, Virginia. For all you football fans in the state of Virginia, you know exactly what that school is. If you happen to be a Westfield Bulldog, you chuckle at that, having beaten them 3 times in a row for a state championship. Go Dogs. I'll stick with that. Meanwhile, for Sweat, he gets an opportunity to finally show what he can do without the great Eagles defense around him. The question is he going to be the same consistent pass rusher? Will he be that guy? Or was he just a product of the Philadelphia Eagles system and the rehab ability stemming from that serious knee injury that he suffered, not just at Florida State, but even in high school, his senior season? So time will tell whether or not that works, but congratulations to Josh Sweat. He certainly earned his money, and in this age, you need pass rushers in this game. So for him, it's all well and good. Hopefully he can make a little bit more noise in the desert, but hey, that division is crowded. We'll get to the NFC West in a moment with some other news here. But for all you folks out in the Windy City, y'all certainly had yourselves a day here. Center Drew Dalman and defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, both of the Atlanta Falcons, are headed to Chicago on 3-year deals. The same goes for Colts defensive end Dayo Odenigbo. Clearly, Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles are not messing around with the trenches. Chicago already landed Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson through trades earlier. And for Caleb Williams, this basically makes sure that he has no excuses whatsoever. He has a lot to worry about right now. But with Keenan Allen gone, the question is, with just DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, do they go after another receiver to play that slot role or do they draft one and hope for the best there? Because right now, outside of Moore and Adunze, there's not really a clear wide receiver that could step in case an injury were to happen, but expect Ben Johnson to likely make a move there. Having filled the defensive and offensive lines, the question now turns to what do the Bears do with the 10th overall pick? Do they go back to the trenches one more time, or do they possibly do what many have shockingly thought they would do, take Boise State running back and Heisman finalist Ashton Jonty? Wouldn't be surprised considering the Lions did take Jahmyr Gibbs to pair with David Montgomery, and they also got Jamison Williams for some speed. But at this point in time, Ryan Poles has filled the trenches. The only thing still missing, if anything, is left tackle. Many will say Braxton Jones. Why? Why would you say Braxton Jones is locked in? He's not. He hasn't exactly lived up to the par of being a good left tackle. And I'm sorry to say it, but without good left tackle play, you're not going to win much. See the Chiefs. Now, Joe Thuney, coincidentally, was playing left tackle, but the Chiefs just could not protect the edges. They're a very, very good interior, which is good. Really good. Without the exterior help, you got no shot of winning. So, for the Bears, they've certainly got their work cut out. Darnell Wright's the only starter on the offensive line at tackle that you can trust. But speaking of the Bears, former Bears first-round pick and Steelers quarterback Justin Fields just got a 2-year, $40 million deal with Gang Green and the New York Jets. Now, for humor purposes, he's teaming up with Garrett Wilson, and as Rich Eisen said on the Rich Eisen show, which I was actually on at one point, believe it or not, he said the last duo to beat Michigan. And then he goes off on his maniacal laugh like typical Rich could. Maybe it's worth another top 5 list and me going on there after all. I still have that notebook, Rich. Don't make me pull it out. But at the end of the day, Justin Fields gets an opportunity to go to the Jets. Many thought he would have gone to the Jets back in the 2021 NFL draft, but they chose Zach Wilson out of BYU. Speaking of Zach Wilson, he's in Miami now. But it is what it is. So Fields gets an opportunity to reunite with Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner on the other side. That's a very good young core. There are some nice young pieces for the Jets. The question is, can it be put together? And for new head coach Aaron Glenn, the former Jets first-round pick, now the head coach, he's got his work cut out for him. But for his sake, he better get this thing rolling because the Jets are still stuck in purgatory as long as Josh Allen's in there, and the Patriots and Dolphins are still fighting. The Patriots are trying to make a move to get back up top the AFC East like they once were, but I think at this point, it's fair to say Buffalo runs that division. Red, white, and blue in the AFC East. Who would have thunk it? But for Fields, you got your chance, man. Now go make the most out of it. Speaking of quarterback play, Baker Mayfield's going to be happy in Tampa Bay along with Mike Evans because Chris Godwin, is coming back on a contract extension, and also with quarterback play Sam Darnold, $100 million with the Seattle Seahawks. Let's go with Godwin first here. This is a move that really will help Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles and company. And they also got Hassan Reddick, for those of you who are paying attention to Twitter, X during the day. You'll see that this was a move that allows the Buccaneers to create some flexibility here. The question does remain, though, now what with the draft? You got 2 veteran guys. What's Todd Bowles really going to cook up at this point? You can't get everybody back. You were able to retain Godwin somehow, some way. And you get Hassan Reddick. He has a little bit of a temperamental attitude. See what he did with the Jets. And by the way, the Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl without him. So, anywho, Godwin got his money, but Sam Darnold, what a revitalization of his career with the Minnesota Vikings. He is now going to the Pacific Northwest. Could we see another Matt Flynn situation? Seahawks might end up drafting a quarterback to really build around. But John Schneider, the Seahawks GM, didn't exactly draft the full Legion of Boom 2.0 here. He's still got a lot of work to do, and Seattle's offensive line is not what it once was. Still some issues, even with the first-round pick and Charles Cross at left tackle. There's still some issues. So, for Sam Darnold, you don't even have Justin Jefferson now. You just have Jackson Smith and Jigba because, as I mentioned on a previous video, DK Metcalf is gone to Pittsburgh and Tyler Lockett's a free agent. So, good luck. He saw Emerald, but was it a fool's goal? Was it fool's mineral or a pyrite, who knows. Ronnie Stanley going to the Baltimore Ravens back on a 3-year deal. He was projected, to potentially go to the KC Chiefs. KC's not going to get him. Instead, they settled for 49ers offensive tackle Jalen Moore. Now, Ronnie Stanley has been a staple on that Ravens offensive line since he was drafted, I believe it was 6th overall many years ago. And the former Notre Dame Fighting Irish captain kind of got, I don't know if he's a captain, if he wasn't, I apologize, but he was a great leader there. And now he's got another contract here. He was coming off of an injury, but the questions for Baltimore still is on Lamar Jackson. Like Josh Allen, who I mentioned in a previous video, they both have a lot of pressure on their shoulders because they not only play in the AFC, but they have to go up against a guy named Patrick Mahomes. Now, the Eagles were able to make Mahomes look pedestrian in the Super Bowl, but that was a complete team effort. Do the Ravens and the Bills have those kind of team that the Eagles have? Likely not. They could still win. I mean, we've seen it in the regular season. We've seen it beforehand, but it's not like it's permanent. They have to lose. It wasn't like the Michael Jordan effect, per se. But, hey, what do we know? Ronnie Stanley got his money. But for the Chiefs, you lose Joe Thuney. You tag Trey Smith. You got Creed Humphrey there. Jawan Taylor? Really? Mike Caliendo? And now you have Jalen Moore playing left tackle. So you're probably going to want to get a guard or maybe another tackle, depending on what the situation is. Or Kingsley Suamataia is the guy. Who knows? But speaking of offensive tackles, the folks in the nation's capital are going crazy as Laramie Tunsil, the former Houston Texan Pro Bowler. Yes, he's a former. He's now headed to D.C. after a blockbuster trade brings him to Washington. This comes after Washington had signed defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw for a 3-year, $45 million, if I'm not mistaken, contract. Clearly, they're going all in on Jaden Daniels, rookie contract. They're going for that window. And they had a great season last year. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship. They were fueled by the Hail Maryland against Chicago earlier in the year. Unfortunately, they ran into Saquon Barkley and the Eagles. Yeah, you probably weren't going to win that one. But for Washington, it's a good move. Sam Cosmi and Laramie Tunsil, that's two really good offensive linemen. Dan Quinn and Adam Peterson making it very clear the trenches are valued there. Despite losing Jonathan Allen, Javon Kinlaw steps in with Johnny Newton and Deron Payne. They still have some pressure cookers up there. They're making moves in Washington. They already got Deebo Samuel for the 49ers. So they're doing what they can to really put themselves in a good position here, but they still have a long way to go. And they're playing in one of the toughest divisions. It's not like they have a road that's so rosy. They play against the Eagles, and the Eagles don't look like they're going anywhere at this point. Already mentioned them losing guys, but they were able to retain a guy, Zach Bond, the linebacker, and Saquon Barkley got extensions themselves. Bond was definitely a revitalization story. Former Saints, I think it was a 3rd-round pick, kind of bounced around on the roster of the Saints, didn't really do much, and now all of a sudden he comes to Philly, and he's one of their leaders. And he really took charge, even though Nakobe Dean without an injury and Oren Burks played perfectly. Bond was the leader of that linebacking core, one of the main guys to watch for on the defense. And certainly it's paid off handsomely, and he's earned himself a lot of money with that. Other minor deals, Najee Harris, the former Steelers running back, is headed to the LA Chargers. Clearly it's the Jim Harbaugh kind of move. Nate Hobbs, the nickelback out of Las Vegas, is going to Green Bay. It's a little bit stunning on that regard because, frankly, you have Javon Bullard playing that slot role. What's Hobbs going to do? Like, seriously, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve his money. He's earned his money. And I'm for players getting paid, but what did Nate Hobbs, when you have Javon Bullard, why do you want another slot guy with that kind of money? Do you plan on putting Bullard back at safety and using Hobbs in the slot and then turning it around there? I mean, I don't know. I'm not Brian Gutekunst, and maybe he's got some plan to work with, but at this point in time, I would focus heavily on the trenches if I was Green Bay. If anything the Super Bowl has taught us all, it is the trenches. The sexy picks are all nice and good. If you don't got the guys up front to do the dirty work, you had no shot of handling it. But who knows? Maybe, just maybe, there could be something going on in here. And frankly, somehow, some way, there's a whole lot of stories coming up here. And Frankly, at this point, we got to look at March Madness. If we're not going to talk about the NFL and the NBA, whatever, March Madness is coming up. The tournaments are in full swing. Several teams have already clinched their berth. One of the more interesting teams is the University of Omaha. They were able to get into the tournament despite, even though they won their games, there's a team in their conference that cannot play in the NCAA tournament due to transferring up. So whatever happens for Omaha, they may end up losing. I think it's a team, right? I think it's the one, Omaha basketball. I think they're the ones that have to I think they're the ones that are going to be doing that stuff. And so yep, they're into the tournament, win or lose in the summit final, absolutely. And the reason for that is St. Thomas University is ineligible while competing to transition to Division 1. So Omaha is going to get that opportunity, but it didn't matter because in the championship game they won 85-75. So long story short, they were going to get in. They were going to get in regardless, but they proved they would get in with the win of the conference final. That's the kind of story you want to see. And again, I'm not mentioning too much college basketball because today's NFL free agency's tampering period, but I had to give them a little bit of respect because of the odds. I know it's on. You didn't win your conference. You know, if you don't win your conference tournament, why are you automatically getting the bid? Well, they actually wound up winning the conference tournament anyway. So that means they get the automatic bid. And we got to deal with it. But congratulations to them. There's been several other teams that are making their first time debuts. We'll probably get into those in some future videos. But again, it's glad to be back here covering the NFL with y'all. And it's unbelievable. So the Troy Trojans, just got a word here, John Rossi. Troy Trojans won their conference, the Sun Belt. That is it's unbelievable. But speaking of college basketball, Kevin Keatts, the head coach of North Carolina State, a year after making a run through the ACC tournament, which I was able to witness, by the way. Shout out to Ashley Eanes for helping me get tickets into that suite at Capital One Arena, which I'll be going back to on Sunday. A10 championship. Looking forward to that. But I saw NC State's run through the ACC tournament, folks. They won that, and then they went all the way to the Final Four. But Kevin Keatts is out a year after that. Many would say Will Wade could be the target. Can I be honest with y'all? He might do something. He's not exactly loved. And that stems back to what he did at VCU, the way he snaked on the team. It's up there with Mike Rhodes. Mike Rhodes, by the way, the Penn State coach. Hold on. This Mike's getting a little. Mike Rhodes, Penn State coach, said VCU was home. No one. No one. Now, Wade was worse. And in fairness to Rhodes, he did beat Wade in that big game when Wade came back with LSU. I give Rhodes credit for that. And Rhodes did win the A10 tournament at one point in time. I'll give him credit for that. So, frankly, people say he should come to NC State. Why wouldn't he? He's a good coach, no question about it, but what if he turns on you? Not exactly something you'd really be enjoying. But speaking of enjoyment, Cowboy fans should certainly enjoy the fact they made a move in free agency. They got Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams. Now look. He's a guy, he's got some opportunity. He's shown that he can play. There's no question about it. But with the way the Cowboys have looked, I'll put that right there. Javonte Williams on the Cowboys. Is he really the kind of guy that in the backfield? I mean, they lost Zach Martin. What's he running behind? It's not exactly a great line that the Cowboys had in the early 2010s. So unless those guys gonna all of a sudden turn around, I don't know. I honestly just don't know for the Cowboys. But one of the things I do want to bring up here, just got word of it. Again, my phone is buzzing with information. I've been in the office all day trying to survive the working force, but hey, you do what you have to do. It's the Minnesota Vikings. They got somebody back on their roster, and that would happen to be Pro Bowl defensive back Byron Murphy. He's got himself an extension with Minnesota, a 3-year, $66 million deal per his agent, who works with Clutch Sports and NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. It's not the worst thing in the world, but $22 million, that is a lot of money. Regardless of what it is, when you commit that kind of money, you're hoping for that kind of production. And frankly, for the Vikings, they're hoping that they can get that. But hey, give them credit where credit is due. They had a lot of stuff. They had a lot of needs, and they're hoping to make the most out of it. But as always, that is the news. And for all of you, that's probably going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. As always, you can follow me on my social media channels. And like I said, I'm trying to make sure I can get you guys more of me during the days, particularly on every weekday. See if I can get an episode in, and hey, why not? This is fun. So thank you so much for watching. As always, this is the SG3 podcast. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. There I am on my Twitter page and my Instagram. You can follow me there, and I will catch you guys next time. Once again, good night, and peace and love, y'all. Truly appreciate you guys.